Live. Better late than never. We about to make history, gentlemen. So hey, good thing comes to those who wait.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to apologize for the delay, but good thing comes to those who wait. This is Political Talks JB. I am your host, Julian Boykin. And tonight I am joined by Dr. WillBoyd and Mr. KenMcfeeters. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing fantastic.
Fine, sir.
So tonight we're going to do something a little different, everybody. It's bipartisanship, and we want to show not just the people of Alabama, but America, what it looks like when you have two individuals who sit on opposite sides of the table, who don't represent the establishment, and they're not here to bash each other and point fingers. We have questions, and these two fine gentlemen have solutions. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Dr. Boyd, I will let you go first. Introduce yourself and tell everybody the position that you're campaigning for. And then, Ken, we will go to you. Dr. Boyd, floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Will Boyd, seeking the nomination for governor of the state of Alabama from the Democratic Party, but I'm not seeking to be a Democratic governor. I'm seeking to actually be the governor that serves all people, no matter what your political affiliation may be. So I'm excited to be on this platform tonight with Mr. Mcfeeters and, of course, you, Mr. Boykin. So I'm excited about the opportunities to speak to the people of Alabama.
And I'm Ken McFeeters. I'm also running for governor. And don't underestimate me. I'm going to do some bashing. Nothing personal, but I'm really upset. So I mean, not at Will, not at Julian, but there needs to be some bashing, and it's the establishment that needs the bashing. So there's going to be some bashing.
The disclaimer came out. I hear you.
Okay. Let's jump right into it. When we talk about education, we're facing Alabama has a serious teacher shortage. How do we hire more teachers, retain them, and give them a livable wage? Dr. Boyd, go with you first.
I've been talking about the necessity for an educational lottery. It will bring anywhere from $800 million to $1 billion to our state. It'll help us create educational equity across zip codes. It will allow us, first of all, to make sure that we put more money in the educational fund that will be restricted. Educational trust fund should not be rated, should not be an educational slush fund. It will allow us to, with respect to your question, pay teachers equitably compared to other states. I'm often referencing the fact that sometimes people come out of Florida seeking to teach in Alabama and they take a $50,000 pay cut. That's almost the household income for families in Alabama. So we have to have a more comparable pay scale for teachers. We want to make sure we have brain gain instead of brain drain. So not that we're giving anything away, but I think when we have teachers who are willing to teach in critical needs areas, willing to serve in Alabama, we can certainly entertain a public service loan forgiveness program where we wipe out some of their student loan debt as they choose to stay in Alabama. So there's a lot we can do, from the full funding of pre-K all the way through even taking care of our young people who are going towards either the trades or even college. And instead of a gambling situation being in effect where people leave our state to educate the kids of Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida, we can have that 1 billion stay right here and make sure our kids are educated in their communities, in their counties, and they can compete nationwide with other students.
Mr. Mcfeeters, same question to you, sir.
I'm of the opinion our educational system is broke from top to bottom. Rockefeller took over education 100 years ago, and our kids are not being taught by design. Our educational system is by design not teaching our children. We have to do something about that. And there's more money is not the solution. We have to redo education and teach virtues in our schools. And we're not doing that for whatever reason. And it's not right.
So when we look at education and we look at vocational trades, we look at college, what steps would you take to expand vocational trades so our young people have an option when they come out of high school? Right now, some kids, only thing they have is college. So what steps would you take to increase our vocational trades, especially in those rural development areas, so they can have other opportunities, to make themselves successful besides going to college?
Who's the question to?
Both of you, Jim. Every question I ask is for both of you to answer.
I think we're both going to agree we need to do vocational schools. We need to teach trades. We need to teach kids how to actually do things. We need to teach them. We also need to be food independent. We need to do the trades, and we have to take the Rockefeller system away and give education back to the communities, to the cities, to the counties. We even have to take it away from the state. The only way we can teach our kids is, and it's like I said, it's designed in 1979. They started the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education. We were in the top 3 in the world in education at the time. We're like mid-20s right now. And like I said, it was by design. And we have to stop it. Immediately. And we have to start teaching virtues to our children.
I taught at the college level. I was a dean and a professor. My dad was a high school superintendent. My brothers taught, and one was a superintendent, one at a college as an administrator. Uh, I would agree that there is certainly a lot of work that needs to be done in our educational systems. I believe in educational freedom as that relates to, uh, I believe every state should be able to have people, superintendents who are working within their districts that know what their students need to make sure they are properly educated. I teach everything from what we call a pedagogy, the teaching of a child, to the andragogy, the teaching of the adult. So I believe starting with, first of all, our high school students, they need to have opportunities for dual enrollment. They need to be able to participate in opportunities that will allow them to even have college credits. Some have different programs already, accelerated programs that, like one of my children, actually 2 of them, have already at the college level been able to take enough classes that they are exempt as far as their first and even first or second year, really, because of the work they did. So we need opportunities like that. We in the trades need to have opportunities for apprenticeship programs or people to work their way into journeyman's positions. We need to have what I've called a blue collar revival and make sure, even in this right to work state that is not always embracing labor, I think we have to work to make sure we help promote this idea that organized labor can help build a better Alabama.
When we talk about workforce development and jobs, young people are leaving Alabama for better opportunities. What is your plan to keep talent here and make Alabama competitive for the next generation?
Go ahead, Will.
Well, what I just stated earlier, making sure that we have the educational lottery in place, not that the money is the answer, but it does help answer some of our problems. Having teachers here who will be consistently able to teach without having to work a second job, allowing people in their school systems to have all the equipment that they need to be successful will be helpful. But one of the things I'm pushing for is for our young people in Alabama to not only be educated in their counties, but be able to remain there to work there. So workforce development is very important. But we also have to have jobs available in each county, or at least available in regions where our young people don't have to leave our state. They can work right here. So this workforce adjustment, workforce development is all about making sure we have skill sets being taught in the classroom that are going to actually help them fill the jobs that are actually open. You could argue unemployment to some degree is low. However, if you don't have enough jobs out there that help people to jump into them and pay their mortgage to find life affordable, they're going to feel like the economy, no matter what the unemployment rate looks like, is not working for them. So what we have to do is just make sure that there are more higher skilled jobs that are available that can make sure that pay eventually gets closer to what you asked about earlier, perhaps a realistic living wage. Alabama is one of those states that does not have a minimum wage. We're kind of following the federal plan. And I think we need to show Alabamians that if we just did just a little bit of the work that I think Ken and I are trying to do in different ways, I think we could see the median household income increase anywhere by 10 to 15%, moving people in Alabama from a $60,000 household income to 65 and maybe even 69,000, which is a huge jump. I think that that's achievable in under 3 years.
In my opinion, the only way we're going to get workforce development is if we educate our kids and they become employable. Right now, Mercedes over in Vance, they have a hard time finding sober kids that will actually show up for work. And that's a problem. And it goes back to our school systems. And Thomas Jefferson said that an ignorant country and a free country is what never was and never will be. And it's my contention that for whatever reason, our school systems want us ignorant. That way they can control us, they enslave us. And Benjamin Franklin said that only a virtuous people can be a free people. And when he was 18 years old, Ben Franklin was sailing back from England and he designed a program. He wanted to be virtuous because all the great thinkers throughout history know that if you want to have a successful life, you have to be virtuous. And that's about the key to success. And he had 13 virtues. And he started with number one is basically sobriety. And he figured you couldn't get to the other 12 unless you were sober. We don't teach our kids sobriety. Just say no is nothing. And then it goes down to 13, and a couple of them are work hard and save your money. Well, I mean, if a kid just works hard and saves his money, more than likely he's going to have a fairly successful life, and his children are going to have a successful life. And if we teach 1 hour a day Ben Franklin's 13 virtues, and it's not religious, so the folks on the left or whatever, or on the right that want complete separation of church and state aren't upset. He designed it that way. I think he could see into the future. If we teach our kids to be virtuous, 1 hour a day, every day, they do this program, and it's extremely simple. Ben Franklin credits success in life for that program, and he was arguably one of the most successful men in history. Companies will fall all over themselves to come to Alabama to hire our virtuous children. It's a no-brainer. It'll take about 2 or 3 years, and we can teach our kids to be virtuous. That is the key to success in life.
When we talk about small businesses, and we all know that small businesses are the backbone for Alabama, what policies would you implement to help small businesses owners start, grow, and stay open?
I taught in a classroom that small businesses usually make up about 80% of the businesses, but the larger businesses, which are 20%, usually bring in 80% of the revenues, just speaking generally across the board. I think smaller businesses usually fail, at least when I was teaching the classroom, for two different reasons. People didn't understand how to manage their finances or the death of the owner. So when you have a sole proprietorship, an LLC, limited liability corporation, so again, these are just opportunities once the founder dies for the business to collapse. Of course, when you don't have financial knowledge, don't have fiscal responsibility, don't understand oversight of budgets, don't know how to plan for the future, contingency plans, you're bound to fail. So I think what we have to do from a state level is have incubators perhaps set up even around college campuses, universities, helping people to understand outside of an accounting course what's involved with maintaining the finances within a business, and then help them to some degree grow their business statewide and then ultimately internationally so they remain profitable.
I started a small business when I was 21 years old, and I've been doing it for 45 years now. And it is work. And that's what a lot of small businesses don't do, is work hard, or they don't show up. If we're slow, I'll take the afternoon off, and then they missed a couple of sales. You have to show up to work. So it's kind of like, if you want a small business to succeed, and we have a small business with 3 offices, 12 employees, and been in business for 45 years, and it's work. And the way to do that is teaching kids virtues. You have to teach them hard work and save and be productive. And if you do that, you'll succeed in business. And it's a lot better than working for somebody else.
Well said, gentlemen. How would you support minority-owned rural small businesses that struggle when it comes to access to capital and resources?
We did it. We didn't need any capital or resources. You just and the somehow all the government programs, and they always end up, like all the COVID money, and that's why we've got unbelievable inflation. The government was just handing out money to everybody. We don't need any more government programs, especially, or any government programs handing out money to people. They just take the money and run. If you want to start a business, I've seen hardworking minorities. I mean, it's the last I was on a podcast 2 days ago or whatever, and he was talking about being a black man in America. And it's like, so he goes, I know what it's like being a black man. Well, I know what it's like being a white man in America. And I grew up in Alabama, been here since '71. And when I was growing up, my next door neighbor was a black guy. He was a doctor, a medical doctor. And then now my next door neighbor is a superintendent of a school system. Black guy ran as a Republican for the school system. It's like, it's not minorities. We've had a black president. We don't need special money for special people. It would just work hard. But number one is educate them. We got to educate our children, and they're intentionally not doing it. And even our school books, if you look at um, Epstein, the guy that hung himself, his right hand woman or whatever, her father was a agent for Mossad. He was also one of the largest distributors of textbooks in the United States. And it's like, we're not teaching our kids right. I mean, it's idiotic. So and that'll help everybody. If we actually educate our kids, you don't need them to give them money to start businesses. They'll do it by themselves.
So I start every speech out usually saying I'm running for Alabama because I want everyone to have a fair shot. A fair shot is just the opportunity for some to be able to work hard and play hard. To work hard at a 9 to 5, an 8 to 3, whatever it may be, and have the opportunity to buy a car that's halfway decent, live in a home perhaps like their parents lived in, and one day retire with dignity, perhaps a pension plan or retirement. Most of the young people now that I know don't know what the American dream truly is. And even though we are three successful individuals on this line right now or on this Zoom platform, Facebook platform, or whether the social media platform may be. And there's no doubt all of us have worked very hard to be in the leadership roles we have. There are not always equal opportunities. Still yet in Alabama, women make 77 cents to their male counterparts. African Americans lag behind their white counterparts by 500 years in terms of wealth. That's primarily because of healthcare cost that they have to incur or builds up on them. It's also because of land issues, titles, land not being clear, air properties, etc. So it's easy to say that work hard, study, have great virtues that I preach about, talk about every day, right, are important. I subscribe to everything Ken just said as it relates to sobriety and moving forward with that sweat equity, kind of like the Robert Kiyosaki, starting off hard, putting your time in, exchanging hours of work for hours of pay to the point that you eventually become the investor in that quadrant. I get all that. But the reality is African Americans don't always have the same shots. So going back to your question, I want to make it clear as an African American man, I can tell you sometimes after white work twice as hard to get half as much. And I can smile and I can do all I can to make sure the world doesn't see the struggle, but the struggle, as they say in the streets, is real. And this is why we have to make sure that we don't give anything away, but we help people to learn how to make it in a fair way. And so every program that I roll out, the $3.4 billion of new revenues that I'm bringing to Alabama as governor, is not about handouts. It's about us working hard to move even Alabama from being a welfare state to being a prosperous state. But what we need is around HBCUs is have these incubators again that allow young people who are coming out of that higher learning experience, maybe in their junior and senior years, to subscribe to what I call the Tinto model, which is out there, which I've been trained to do, preparedness and connectedness. You prepare them by perhaps getting with that African American doctor that Ken mentioned, showing that young student how a practice works from day to day, what needs to be done to avoid malpractice, what needs to be done to make sure you build up your clients, list, etc. Those are things that are important. And you can teach the virtues as you're going through the day with that preparedness and connectedness. This helps them to succeed. But at a policy level, people may not want to admit it, but there's still policies, bad policies right here in Alabama that are not presenting everyone the same opportunities to succeed.
I think
When we
that
talk about
transcends race.
Absolutely, it does. I mentioned gender already. I mean, we've got a lot of policies that
transcends gender. I mean, everybody,
absolutely
it's tough out there. I
it
mean, you have,
is.
and it's tough, especially when you come out of school not educated. Heck,
Mhm.
kids can't give change, and you go to the grocery store and they can't give you change unless they use the computer. It's absolutely criminal what our educational system has been doing, and that's if we actually educated our kids, we'd have no problem with it. Like I said, there's always someone out there that it's a Marxist ideology where they try to divide people by race, by gender, by sex, by economic status, by political party, and divided they conquer. We cannot be divided. The people have to come together, and we need to demand that our schools start educating our kids, or take them out, educate them yourself. And I mean, and even you're talking about one of the main reasons, if you're talking about failure in life, is fathers in the household, and that transcends race as well. A fatherless household, you have kids that are much more likely not to graduate high school, much more likely not to be successful in life, financially successful in life. And that's the number one thing. If you want success, you got to, a stable family. But we have to work on that.
So I was a dean of student success at a school in of higher learning. And what I did is I took young people who were in that exact situation. Neither their parents went to college, or perhaps mom had a little bit of college experience. They were at the bottom of their high school class. With preparedness and connectedness, wrapping my arms around them, showing them what is required to study, how to read in chunks, how to study the vocabulary, the glossary, how to prepare themselves to take tests, how to make sure that after they've taken the test that they can apply what they've learned, taught them how to think critically. All of those people went from the bottom of their high school class to graduating at a prestigious college, now university, with more than a 3.0. And that was because we did part of what we're talking about right now. We sat people down and explained to them what is required to succeed, whether you call it hard work, whether you call it understanding virtues, but we practically showed them how to study, how to digest information, how to embrace a world that is not always seeking to embrace you. And when we did that, they succeeded. So I think the model of teaching has to change to some degree. I
Big
mentioned
time.
earlier, there's a problem. I
Yeah.
think people started teaching to take tests. So when you just have people that teach to pass an ACT, an SAT, or whatever the lesson course test may be, you're going to find people able to take tests, but they can, as Ken said, get out and give you change for a dollar. Don't mess up and give them a penny or a dime and tell them you don't want to break a quarter, or you want a certain bill back. You're going to cause a meltdown. So I just think we have to redo how we teach.
Our schools, I'm totally convinced with this. Our schools, by design, teach memorization and compliance. You are taught, and the better you memorize what you're told and do what you're told, the more successful you are in that system, which is it's idiotic. And the people that make straight A's, that excel at that system, where do they get accepted? To our medical schools. That's why we just went through a bunch of medical tyranny for the last 6 years. Our doctors did not stand up for the people, and they did what they were told, and they remembered what they were told, and it was completely wrong. That's what's wrong with our school systems, and it's created the problem with our medical system as well. And that's another one of my big things is redoing medicine, because it's it's like I said, they control the medicine. Well, the same people that control our foods. So, but we have to. It starts with education. If we fix education, I think everything else will take care of itself.
I agree.
When we talk about healthcare and rural access, our rural hospitals are closing. They're continuing to close. So what is your plan to stabilize and expand healthcare access in rural Alabama?
I just talked about, there's some major, we need to get some really good critical thinkers down in Montgomery, and we need to totally redo medicine. The big study just came out with ivermectin and fenbendazole and how it treats cancer. And my dog was diagnosed with nasal cancer about a year and a half ago. It's a very aggressive cancer. I gave her ivermectin and fenbendazole against the wishes of my vet, and then came back and usually live about 2 to 4 months after diagnosis. It's been a year and a half. My dog's fine, and my vet won't talk to me or won't talk about it. And I think they had like an 80%, and this is over like 85 different studies, 85% either total remission or a lot better, and didn't grow. Where if you would have done traditional radiation and chemotherapy, I think it has a 20% success ratio, kills the other 80%, and costs $125,000. And the doctor, I think, makes 10% off that for referring. So the doctor makes what, $12,000, $12,500, where the ivermectin and fenbendazole cost you $1,000. And that's done on so many levels with our healthcare system. And why do we want to expand a healthcare system that's designed? Our medical industry now has gotten to a point, it's owned by the same people that run our food supply. They treat us. They don't heal us, they treat us. We don't, and that for money. We don't want, I want healing. We have to rethink medicine. And it's not, and Rockefeller took over our medical schools, shut down half of them, all the homeopathic, and he's got allopathic, surgery and medicine, both for money. And most people can get better. What was the guy's name? The father of Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine. It says, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And we have to get Alabama healthy. That's another reason bring a lot of jobs to Alabama. If we're healthier and we're virtuous, like I said, we will turn away everybody, because we will rule the United States. But we got to get healthy.
Absolutely. So my approach to improving the healthcare outcomes in Alabama is addressing the main problems of uncompensated care in our rural health systems. Right now, we're seeing a lot of hospitals, 25, perhaps even 30, that are about to close their doors because of that high uncompensated care. People love to say that that's because of people coming across the border or someone else, but we have a high number of uninsured Alabamians. So that's another issue that we'll tackle later on. But to answer your question directly, the biggest thing I think we can do is the expansion of Medicaid. There are 282,696 people who need health care, period. We could talk about whether or not that's traditional medicine or a different route, but the fact of the matter is they have nothing. And so when you have a sick group of people, unhealthy group of people who are in communities, they don't make a healthy workforce. So we have to make sure we do something. Just spending $282 million with the help of the Affordable Care Act, 90% of that will be wiped out. You have 22.8 million as an investment. Even if that does not occur, and let's just say 228 million is spent, you have a return of 394 million. You have $2 billion of new revenues that come to the state of Alabama every year. You employ 200,000 people primarily in the healthcare sector. You go beyond that to improving healthcare outcomes, stopping the rise of maternity mortality. You're stopping the rising of infant mortality. You're allowing opportunities for this non-traditional medicine that Ken just mentioned to be infused into our healthcare system and allow more Alabamians to start feeling better. That's the first step. That again improves our workforce. It brings more people to the table who are healthier. And at the end of the day, it allows us to see an Alabama that's much healthier than it could be today. So why we've not expanded Medicaid, I don't know. We've challenged the governor's office on that. To date, we've not received a response.
How would you strengthen mental health services across the state, especially in rural development areas in Alabama?
Go for it, Will. I was first last time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I'm a Christian clinical therapist, so mental health is very important to me. There are many people who are undiagnosed. We have a host of reasons why people are struggling. We have actually veterans with a high number of mental health challenges. We have a lot of people who are in the school systems that we mentioned earlier, and even educators who are dealing with mental health challenges. So I believe that we have to have more money infused into our healthcare system to address the behavioral aspect of it, from the extreme when people are ready to commit suicide or have attempted to do so. But at the forefront, when we have people who are experiencing some form of anxiety, some form of uh, massive depression disorder, whatever it may be, uh, we need to make sure we have people who can help them diagnose that on the front end and help them to get over it, help them to work through it, help them to overcome the challenges. That may be with them for life, what they're facing, what they're dealing with, but having people who are more embracing of the mental health crisis that we have is important. I believe we need to have uh, treatment centers for our veterans so that in every county, when they're struggling with the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder, or they're struggling with other anxiety issues, that they can actually find treatment that will also stop them from experiencing a high level of homelessness. We have over 300 veterans who are homeless in Alabama. Many of them, I have no doubt, are perhaps still on the battlefield, still not here where they need to be because they've not received the right treatment. I'm a fan of the VA. My father's 100% disabled. He's a veteran, served our country, and of course, Agent Orange did a job on him and some other things on foreign lands. But the VA, while it does have its advantages, I believe we need in every county federally qualified healthcare centers and more mental health centers to help people out dealing with their crises.
On the mental health, I've got it's kind of a two-pronged thing. Number one is I think everybody wants a lottery, clean lottery bill. I would use the proceeds from the lottery. Unlike Georgia and some of the other states, they put the money into education and higher education. And most of the folks that use it are middle to upper middle class kids. And they're not the ones buying lottery tickets. It's the lower income folks what are generally buying the lottery tickets, and those that are bad at math. I do buy lottery tickets when it gets to a couple of billion dollars. I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket. I'm bad at math as well, and it's probably rigged too. I think Epstein has won the lottery twice. You know, the guy that supposedly hung himself. Um, but I would use that money to fund mental health, and that will also solve another huge problem is prisons. We generally treat the mentally ill in prison, whether it's addiction or mentally ill. A lot of them are treated in prison, and that overcrowds our prisons, and that keeps us letting the violent people out of prison. We don't need to be doing that. The violent people need to stay in prison, and we don't need to overcrowd our prisons with mentally ill people. We need to treat those. If we use the money from the lottery for the mentally ill, that'll solve the prison overpopulation problem, and would keep the violent folks locked up, and then treat the mentally ill as they should be treated, with dignity. And I think that would be a great way to do it. And with lottery and McDeg, I'm sure Epstein's not gonna win a third time, even that he's dead, because there is some corruption in anything the government does.
Well said. When we talk about expanding Medicaid, do you gentlemen support that, or another alternative to ensuring working families access to healthcare in rural communities?
I do. I'm sure you've heard me say it multiple times in this live stream already that I'm a big fan of it. Uh, Blue Cross and Blue Shield has proposed a plan that would actually cover those 282,696 people, are rounding off the 300,000 who are uninsured today. It does not offer, though, the same type benefits, the return on investment that expansion of Medicaid would. In case you believe this is a partisan issue, we see where Governor Kemp, a Republican governor in Georgia, a neighboring state, actually partially expanded Medicaid. Is it without problems? Absolutely not. But people have health care. And I think that's the first step we have to make, at least trying something different that will bring about the same outcomes that I mentioned earlier. Again, more healthcare professionals are employed, more revenues coming to the state. You're making sure the hospitals do not close. And I know I could get us into that argument right now if I talked about the fact that the big beautiful bill was not as beautiful as people anticipated it would be. And so you have even the amount of money that President Trump is allotting each state to use to help their healthcare system statewide across the nation. It's not enough to stop the problems that we have right now. So again, I think the best route is expansion of Medicaid.
I think expanding something, a flawed system is a very bad idea. I think we should redo medicine. Like I said, if we're paying $100,000 or $125,000 for cancer treatments, we can get a better outcome for $1,000. And you compound that over so much of what our medical system has done. And our doctors came out of schools where they were the best at doing what they're told and remembering what they're told. Then they get into a Rockefeller controlled medical system that was built and designed for profit, not for healthy or healing people or getting people healthy. If they did, we would not have gone through what we've done for the last 7 years. Um, we have to get people healthy. And now there's some great things with medicine. So, if you get hurt in a car accident, you can't get better care than anywhere and than you can in the operating room in the United States. If you need, bones break and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. But our general overall healthcare sucks, and it's by design, and it's designed to be profitable for not a very great group of people. Three companies, because of our monetary policy, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, which are really one company because they don't own each other's stock, currently own controlling interest in 95% of our publicly traded companies. That means they basically control 95% of our publicly traded companies. Excuse me. They control our food supply that's making us sick. If you go to the grocery store and shop on the aisles, it's so full of chemicals, it's poison. They also own all our medical industry, our hospitals, our pharmaceutical companies that treat us for the illnesses that our food is causing. This is insanity. We cannot continue to do this. We have to rethink medicine. We have to rethink our educational system, and it has to start now. We don't need to expand it and throw more money at it. And that's what government does. We got to stop and get healthy because we're not healthy. I mean, look around you. The bigger and the bigger and bigger and the people behind it, BlackRock, Street, and Vanguard, have used our legislatures and our government to expand healthcare to what the behemoth it is today. We have to bring healthcare back to our neighborhoods. We have to get healthy locally. We have to make our own, start growing a lot of our own foods and eating our own foods. And Alabama help each other. Alabama needs to help each other. Alabama needs to be able to feed each other. We need to be able to feed ourselves. The definition of freedom is being able to feed yourself. Nothing else matters if you can't feed yourself. And we're going down a very, very scary trail giving our food supply to the globalists. We got to get away from that. And that way we'll also get healthy. And like I said, we don't need to expand a flawed system. We need to revamp the flawed system. And we need doctors to stand up. The doctors know what's going on. They're the best and the brightest. They need to do some critical thinking skills, and they need to and help us.
Let's talk about the CHOOSE Act. 249,000 enrollments so far. Public education funds are paying for the private schools. How do you gentlemen feel about the CHOOSE Act?
Well, you're the educator, Will. What do you think?
I'm opposed to anything that takes money away from public schools. I'm for people obviously allowing their kids, putting their kids into private schools, homeschooling, all of that's wonderful. I go back to the fact that our schools are struggling. People are fighting for that fair shot. And if all the money that is, let's just say, supposedly in the Educational Trust Fund is being, I'll say, pushed out to people who really don't need it uh, versus people who do, that's when you're limiting the whole state's ability to succeed. So this is not, again, about a handout. It's about restricting people who need the help from getting in. That's my concern about the CHOOSE Act and why I'm opposed to it.
I'm opposed to a lot of government in education, and I've read conflicting reports on the Choose Act. And usually when government's involved, it doesn't turn out well. And if we redid our schools and gave our schools back to the educators and the teachers and took it away from the bureaucrats, if you look at the growth since 1979, when the U.S. Department of Education started, and the teachers per student ratio, and like I said, the textbooks they're using are totally flawed by design. They're not teaching our kids what's actually going on. But the teacher to student ratio has not gone up at all. The bureaucrats and administrators is grown exponentially. It's and which is completely backwards. You can't do that. We have to get education back to our teachers, back to our cities, back to our counties, away from the state, and definitely away from the government, the U.S. government. And when I voted for Trump 3 times. And he said he's going to do away with the U.S. Department of Education. I haven't seen it yet. And I'm kind of getting a little bit impatient. So, but I did vote for him 3 times, but I want to see some action with education. We have to get education back to our teachers and our local communities and have them decide what we're teaching the kids, have them decide what's in the textbooks, not people from a foreign intelligence agency. And it's absolutely insanity. Our kids aren't learning what's really going on.
How do we get away from depending on federal dollars and figuring out ways to generate income for the state to where we can be able to implement more of what we're trying to do? And I know that a lot of the things that the state of Alabama wants to do, it's dependent, not majority, but a lot of those funds come from the federal government. So how do we get off of dependency on the federal government and somewhat of a self-sustaining, making our own money in Alabama?
I put out a
Because it
video
sounds
today
like,
explain. I'm sorry.
it sounds like we talk about, hey, we don't want a free handout, but at the same time, we depend so much on the federal government to offset our funds as it relates to, okay, hey, this is what the state can pay for, but we need some help from the federal government. So how do we break away from depending on those federal dollars and get to a self-sustaining state?
For every $1 we give the federal government, we're looking for 4 back, in simple terms. Today, I talked about the fact that if you have a peanut farmer in Alabama, she or he is dealing with the selling or the sale of a commodity. They will grow, they will harvest, they will sell their peanuts. And I figuratively just say for peanuts on the dollar. However, when you look at what happens to those tons of peanuts after they're taken to the retail side or the packaging side that first of all is processed, you are looking at a state where we have just been happy with the fact that we've received a few $100s for a ton of peanuts, but it's gone to some other state where they're going to process it, package it, sell it for a certain amount. And guess what? 90% of the money that comes in from that product on the shelf is actually was what was done out of state, not what was done in state. So we have to bring manufacturing, packaging, processing into Alabama so that we are not a welfare state, but a state that can actually have people working right here. We grow here, we harvest here, and we package here to sell here or sell abroad, even internationally. That's the type mindset we have to have. The same is true with high-speed rail. I mean, we've had discussions about high-speed rail for years, but we've left federal dollars on the table. We've not pursued enough loans that relate to getting the federal portion into the state to kick the high-speed rail into motion. So there are 2 ways to look at it. Alabama could do better at acquiring more federal dollars to put into proactive projects. But what we can do right now in this very biodiverse state, where you have a $70.4 billion agricultural industry right here in our state, where you have rich, fertile ground, you have a again biodiverse state that can grow just about anything. We can do well with even exportation, getting it out. I think we have to invest in farmers. We have to invest in pro technology tools that help our state succeed and do better. I believe when we do this, we're going to lead the South, and we'll see a totally different southern region in the state or in the United States of America.
I'm a firm believer. In 1913, they started the Federal Reserve, where the foreign folks or whatever issue our currency. Congress ceded its constitutional authority to issue currency to the Federal Reserve, which is not federal. It's with 7 families. We've been dealing with them since. That same year, like 8 months later, was the first time since the Civil War. There was a brief time during the Civil War we had an income tax. Federal income tax. It was very small. And then 1913, right after the creation of the Federal Reserve, they created the a federal income tax. It was at 1%. They said, you'll never have to worry about it. It's never going to go up. Well, of course, anything government touches is going to go up and up and up. I'm a firm believer in our constitutions. Our constitutions are sacred. Our constitutions are what the people use to empower government. We empower government. But more important, our constitutions that are made by the people limit government. And Alabama's Constitution, Article 1, Section 35 of the Alabama Constitution states, and this is sacred, this is what the people have limited government to do. It says that the sole and only legitimate end of government is to protect the citizen in life, liberty, and property. And when it goes around that, it is usurpation and or oppression. That's what Article 1, Section 35 says. How much of what our government does is not protecting the citizen, us, in our pursuit of life, liberty, and property? Most of what it does. Our government is way gone. It's insane how much our government has done that's unconstitutional. And we have to start taking it back and have to rely on each other. Alabamians need to rely on Alabamians, not Washington, D.C., and not the globalists. We have to rely on each other. We have to feed each other, care for each other, educate each other, and come together, because there's a lot of bad people out there and they're not looking out for Alabamians. We've got to do it. That's why I'm running for governor and not Congress, because I don't think you can do a whole lot up in Washington, D.C. There's a uniparty that's controlled by the globalists. We need to think locally, do locally, act locally, and help each other, love each other, and come together. Don't be Republicans, don't be Democrats, don't be white, black, gender. Come together, people. There's going to be some interesting times coming. And if we don't take care of each other, nobody else is.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the roles of Lieutenant Governor of Alabama, the House and the Senate recently voted to take away some of those roles from the current Lieutenant Governor as well as the the next incumbent Lieutenant Governor. What do you think the roles of a Lieutenant Governor should be, given the fact that those roles were just taken away just mysteriously out of the blue for whatever reason?
I ran for Lieutenant Governor in 2018. I was the nominee for the Democratic Party. And at that time, the Lieutenant Governor had a wide range of responsibilities. I don't think most people have an idea how much the Lieutenant Governor does. Now, I know
Correct.
people typically believe a Lieutenant Governor or a Vice President is someone who steps in when the governor or president, respectively, is incapacitated. But you're talking about someone who effectively, even at the federal level, is the president of the Senate. You're talking about someone who can step in and break a tie, someone who can do more than many others as it relates to the appointments of many boards. I cannot say I fully agree with the change that has taken place. I believe the lieutenant governor, again, is a very important role in our state government, and we need to do all we can to make sure that office is preserved in terms of its duties.
I feel about the same way. I know there's a couple of guys I've been dealing with the legislature through my industry as an advocate for my industry for 20 some odd years, and talked to the rank and file, the House members and the senators down there. And they all complain, it's like, we don't get to do a whole lot. We shuffle here, shuffle there. There's a few people down there that have a tremendous amount of power, and the rest of them, not so much. And And I think that Article 1, Section 35 about life, liberty, property should be at the entrance of every at every entrance to our new our state house down in Montgomery. We're building a big, beautiful new state house down in Montgomery to house the legislature. And I think Article 1, Section 35 about what their job is. And like I said, I'm not exactly sure what happened or what powers they took away from them, but it was to help a couple of other people, I guarantee you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was. When we look at midterms, the voter turnout, in Alabama is kind of low. So how do we get voters to come out and vote? Why are voters quitting? Why are they not motivated to just get out and vote? We always talk about, hey, voting is a right, not a privilege. And we always have a plethora of people who are registered voters, and for some reason, when it comes time to vote, they choose not to vote.
Mind if I go first, Will?
Oh, please. We're just friends talking here.
Okay, cool. I've got a good one on this one. I think the people have given up. I mean, if you look, I'm a Republican. I became a Republican when I was 18 years old. I looked down at Montgomery, and this is when Democrats controlled Montgomery top to bottom, and they did till 2010. And I looked down at Montgomery and said, no, I'm not that. I'm not a corrupt. I'm not a good old boy. I'm not, the backdoor deal, or, backroom deals. That's not me. I'm a good guy. I'm a Republican. And then, that was a lot of years ago. Well, now it almost seems like the same folks that were in charge of the Democrats back then are now in charge of the Republicans right now. And it's kind of like, I think they've disenfranchised the people. The Democrats are disillusioned. I'm talking about the rank and file, the voters, and they're the good folks. There's a very small, bad part of the Democrat Party, and there's a big, small, bad part of the Republican Party. Unfortunately, they control both parties. And Alexis de Tocqueville, he wrote an iconic book in the 1800s, Democracy in America, has been quoted by every president since. And he made the statement when the United States was a small country becoming great. He said, not only did money and connections not help you get elected, it more than likely prevented you from getting elected back then. Because the people instinctively knew not to vote for the connected money-backed candidates. Somehow we've forgotten that. If the people will realize and get out one time this election and vote for the guys without the $20 million. My opponent's supposedly going to raise $20 million. They lined up the first night that he announced that he would be our next governor. There were 8 guys that handed him $100,000 checks. Don't vote for that guy on either side. And then if you look at, and both parties get the money from the same people. The guys behind the scenes control both parties, the money in both parties. And that's the guys that, unfortunately kind of sell out. If we would take just the same number of regular Democrats in Alabama, same number of Republicans in Alabama, the working guys, the regular folks that vote Republican, vote Democrat, and replaced everybody up in Washington, D.C. and Montgomery with those folks, we'd have a completely different government. And we'd have a completely different country, and we'd have 99% of our problems would be solved. We have to stop voting for the money candidates. And because everyone will tell you, well, I got to do this. I got to go get money. I got to do this. That's the only way I can get elected. And it's because they make you think that's the only way you can get elected, and that's, they say Tupperville, the media is behind them, and same with Jones. As soon as he announced, boom, they give him $500,000 first day, and very quickly. And it's like there's something wrong with that. And so don't vote for those guys. And if you come out, tell your friends about some guys that aren't getting the money. I've collected $353 intentionally. When I ran for Congress, I spent $25,000 of my own money, did not collect a dime, and turned away money. I want to talk what's real. I want to help Alabamians. That's why I'm running for governor.
So I've done something a little bit different, and I agree with what Ken said. I've actually been handing out these will bills, and the will bills are actually just reminding people that I did not buy influence. I shared it with someone. They passed along on the back of the bills. It actually just shows that it was the people that fueled our campaigns and not the money. Citizens United has allowed money to basically replace people. You have a lot of dark money that has entered this race. special interest groups. I would love on the opposite side to see where you can only raise money in the district that you're going to serve, or the money can only come from people who are donating in the area that you intend to have constituents. So right now we're seeing where money is dictating who sits in the seat. And once people sadly get to Congress, they're dialing for dollars all over again. So when you're dialing for dollars, when you're in call time 24/7, which is not bad, but I'm saying when you're trying your best to call and ask people for money, where's the time to knock on doors? Where's the time to do what we're doing right now and let people see who we are? We are basically, Ken and I are basically interviewing for a job. And we're asking the people of Alabama to select us, first of all, within our own parties to be the nominees, so that we could actually face each other off. I would actually love to face Ken in the general election, and I think it would be a totally different experience. I think he and I would talk about the issues. We would have debates openly, and I would challenge him even now. Ken, we can go into every one of the 7 congressional districts and have Lincoln Douglas debates and just talk about the issues at hand. And I'm sure the Alabamians can make the best decision or the right decision about who should lead. But right now, we don't even have people who want to debate. Uh, Obviously, the two of us are talking. Two of us are in front of you, and we appreciate the opportunity, especially on something that's rarely done on a bipartisan level. But it's unfair to the people of Alabama that they can't even see everyone who's running for office. If they won't show up now, why do we magically think they're going to show up after they're elected? This is the problem we have in Alabama. We think again that money is the barometer, the litmus test for success in politics. And just look at what the people with money do right now when they have it. They don't focus on the people. Generally speaking, we need people
Correct.
who understand what it's like to struggle.
That's not generally speaking, that's a fact.
It's a fact. It's a fact. I'm trying to be careful and not paint a broad stroke across the Republican Party or Democratic Party tonight. I'm trying to give
Oh,
people the benefit of the doubt, but
I'm not. I mean, I am so tired of it. I mean, I'm fighting an uphill battle, and it's like, and I'm going down swinging.
uh,
It's time to talk truth. And
I
our,
talk truth every day too.
yeah,
I've been trying to be a gentleman in this race and not tear anybody down. I call the other candidates, check on them, see how they're doing, but I have to, like you, in the speaking of truth, explain to people if you don't see these individuals now willing to show you concern, what makes you think they're going to do that later, and they don't.
of course. And they're, if you get someone's giving you $100,000 check, who are you going to listen to? The guy in the street or the guy giving you $100,000 check?
That's it. That's it.
Well said. When we look at our infrastructure, it is no secret that we have rural areas that don't have high-speed internet. What is your plan as the next governor to ensure that all 67 counties in Alabama have access to high-speed internet?
If you Google BEAD, BEAD, the acronym, you'll see what that equity is all about from that standpoint. We have a trunk that's already in place. We just don't have the end of the line where it needs to be. So I have
Okay.
stated over and over, I would love to see by 2028, 98% of our state covered in broadband. I struggle when I am in certain parts of Tuscaloosa County, and I can't even find a tower to maintain or keep a phone call going, or I'm in Selma and I'm dropping phone call coverage. Imagine those kids who are now carrying Chromebooks home and they can't even get towards an internet browser, an Explorer. They have to go to Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, or a shopping mall in order to jump on someone else's internet or hotspot. That's not good if we want our kids to be competitive in the things that Ken and I have been talking about relative to education. We're setting kids up to fail when we don't have that. And furthermore, you know, earlier we talked about, and Ken, just give me just a little latitude for a second here. Earlier we talked about expanding a failed system or putting money into Medicaid. We have people right now who are dying, and I'm not making this up. We have hospitals that are closed, doors that are chained up. We have bolts on doors, locks that are turned. People are dying trying to skip a closed hospital to get to one an hour away that's not there. I'm not trying to push money at a broken system. I'm trying to say, let's do what you just said, Ken, earlier. Let's help as a community, a family, us take care of those who are struggling. That's too many people. 900,000 in poverty. We can fix that. Not by giving anything away, but we can fix that mindset. We can change that outcome. So going back to where we are right now, relative to the internet, why would a business want to invest in Alabama, especially in areas I just mentioned, parts of Tuscaloosa, parts of Selma, parts of the Black Belt, when they don't know if they can reach a forklift driver on the other side of the plant, or they don't know if they can upload data from their location to a hub in Atlanta or on the other side of the world. Furthermore, as I wrap this up, I'll just say, what about telehealth services? What about rural areas where there is no hospital? And I keep mentioning these people who are an hour drive from Tuscaloosa, an hour from the nearest hospital in Mississippi, if they're in Pickens County. I can name several counties right now. Butler County, don't nothing, can't get anywhere near a hospital without a 45-minute commute. Telehealth services would help them if they could jump on and speak to someone who could quickly tell them what they could pick up in the form of a prescription from the nearest Walgreens, CVS. But right now, many of them can't even use telehealth services because we don't have broadband. So it's very important that the whole state be covered. Again, 98% by 2028, and that begins with the critical areas first, where we don't have it, and working our way back out.
Well, I look at it as kind of like the post office. It's a lot cheaper and more cost efficient to deliver the mail in a very dense urban area than it is the rural areas. But the federal government, expanded it, the post office, to the rural areas as well, where it's a lot more expensive. Same thing with the broadband. We do have a bugaboo. My opponent, and he's on the Armed Services Committee, and your wonderful people up in Washington, D.C. just funded a company called Palantir to use Gotham software at all these new data centers that they're putting everywhere. I mean, they're springing up like cancer, and it is a cancer. These data centers are going to hold all our information, and literally all of our information, banking, online, medical, what you're thinking, what you're doing. And Palantir, they're using a military and intelligence agency developed software and surveillance software designed to be used against our enemies, turned on the American people. And they just gave them $10 billion to Palantir to do this. And it's owned by a guy with ties to a foreign intelligence agency. And it's like, what in the heck are we doing? I mean, and then, Bessemer's trying to open one right down the street from it. They're open up all over the place. We got to stop this. We're building our prisons. This is the first step in, you remember back, it can never happen. Remember back to what happened during the COVID. You weren't allowed to leave your house. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go to church. Our schools were shut down. Kids lost a year and a half of education that they'll never get back. So probably some of them, cost them a high school education because they got behind. We cannot allow this to happen. We have to stand up. And there again, Alabama needs to take care of Alabama. We need to put a stop to this. And like I said, it blows my mind. People aren't just, just up in arms about this. I don't understand it because it's insanity.
When we talk about job growth in Alabama, Alabama's attracting a lot of employers. We got Space Command coming. We have Eli Lilly coming. What is your long-term infrastructure plan to support population growth, job expansion, and more importantly, how do we steer some of these companies that's coming to Alabama? How do we steer them into rural areas like Selma, for example? Selma has, young people that really want careers. However, they don't have the means to be able to just up and relocate to a Huntsville or to a Tuscaloosa or Vance, Alabama to work at the Mercedes-Benz plant, or to probably relocate to Montgomery and work at Hyundai. How do we figure out a way to where, as these companies want to relocate and set up shop in Alabama, how do we set up an infrastructure to where we can start not, if you pay attention, Huntsville is being overflooded right now. You talking about within a 1 mile radius, you might see 7 to 10 apartment complexes, which is something I thought I would never see. You turn every time you turn around, you see brand new houses being built. You see farmers, kind of selling out to these, commercial developers. So how do we figure out how do we shift some of these companies as we look at job expansion and things of that nature? What's the infrastructure plan to support all of that?
Companies are only going to go where educated, virtuous kids are and people are, and they're not going to go anywhere that's not. So if we take care of education, and it'll take 3 years to completely turn it around. 1 hour a day, every day, when Ben Franklin's 13 Virtues, and it becomes habitude. That's why he did the little course. It became habitual. And once that happens, the jobs take care of themselves. People want sober, hardworking, stable people. I mean, and they don't want the kids that are coming out of high school now, because they're none of that. So unfortunately, those kids, it's too late unless they're smarten up and learn. But the younger kids, that's the way they'll learn. That's the way the companies will go to them. No question, they're dying for those folks. We just have to produce them.
I wholeheartedly agree. Education is the key to success in Alabama. It all starts with the educated children uh, moving our state forward. I believe infrastructure wise, as I just said earlier, there's some counties that are struggling. When you look at Dallas County, as you just referenced Selma, and you look at Pickens County, as I just talked about, parts really of Aliceville, if you didn't know where I was talking about, you're actually seeing where people are struggling. Infrastructure wise, we have a lot of counties where the water is not clear in the pipes. We're talking about brown and black water in certain cities. We have a county right now, Lowndes County, that is struggling with septic and sewer issues. You have Limestone County, impacted by perhaps sewage issues as it relates to how you're dealing with the growth, as it's one of the fastest growing counties alongside Madison, which is struggling with infrastructure relating to the roads not being big enough. I mean, I was in Madison Sunday night. There's always construction on 65 in many of our other counties. That all being said, people do, as Ken said, want to invest where they're educated people. I started this off talking about the skill sets needing to come up in Alabama to meet the demand of these higher skilled jobs. There are many thousands of jobs that are available. It's just that people don't have the skill sets to walk into them. So that's why you need the workforce development in place. You need trade readjustment. Perhaps an industry or a trade that once thrived in Alabama may not thrive here right now. So you have to shift people's thinking. You may have coal miners who may know well how to go down and excavate, but now we're telling them, well, we're about to go into pumped hydro, where we're going to move water in a closed loop system from a reservoir, drop it down a shaft over a turbine, create electrical power, and then that water that then floods the coal mine that they once worked in to extract coal is going to collect the water. Solar panels are going to push it back up, and we have a process that repeats itself, and we're freeing our electrical grid up from high demands during peak times. These are creative ways that we could improve infrastructure, bold new ideas to embrace greener, cleaner technologies and energy. However, it starts again with us making sure our schools are there. When a person, and I shouldn't say I'm sad to say it, but my family, my immediate family, has enjoyed a lot of opportunities in life because we were willing to move. We were able to pick up and go from one state to another, to move multiple times, to embrace new opportunities. Every time we moved, one of the main concerns we have is the school system. One of the reasons why I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now is because I wanted to make sure that if we were going to move into this area, my kids would be in the Hoover school system. And I'm proud to say both of them, at least, well, three of them, but two so far have graduated with above a 4.0 all 4 years, and have walked in any direction they wanted to with respect to higher education and are doing well where they are. Not every student has that opportunity. When you're in a place where a school is failing or a school is literally figuratively crumbling, it's a problem. I can tell you a former superintendent right now, as I prepare to hand it back to you, sir, who served as a superintendent. Keep in mind now, she was serving as the superintendent in one of our counties in North Alabama. They were still using the same Bunsen burners while she's superintendent. that they used whenever she was actually in high school or even elementary school. That's sad in
Wow.
Alabama.
Wow. Wow. That is very sad. I would agree with both of you. Ken, you make a great point. You know, it's hard to shift companies in rural areas where the educational level is not where it needs to be. Because when these companies come in, they're going to do an assessment and they're going to assess, okay, what is the educational level as it relates to just reading, writing, arithmetic, math, things of that nature. You know, how many of our young people possess the basic skills?
And are they
So,
ethical and are they virtuous? Because, if you move into
correct.
somewhere and your business gets broken into and your products get stolen, it's like, you can't do that. So we have to teach our kids virtue, and that's the success to life. Look at the greatest thinkers throughout history. The virtuous are happy. They live long, successful, healthy lives. People that aren't virtuous don't. So why aren't you're an educator, Will? Why aren't our schools teaching them? It's the simplest thing in the world. Why aren't I want to know this because I don't understand. Why aren't our kids being taught this? And to me, they're taught to memorize and comply and to a central authority. Remember what you're told and do what you're told. If you do that, you will succeed. And if you don't do that, they'll put you on Ritalin.
I mentioned earlier, sometimes people teach to test. So when you want to make sure a person can pass a test, a basic skills assessment, you may tell them or show them techniques, ways to look for the answers without knowing the answer. In other words, you can rule out these three as not being logical, so the fourth one must be the right answer. Well, in real life, that doesn't help you. You don't have that luxury. When you have someone on a hospital bed, they're coming in with the stroke, the atrial fibrillation, the heart event, whatever it may be, brain cancer, you don't have the opportunity in surgery or the opportunity in a triage unit to say, well, I'm going to try these three things. If those don't work, then maybe this will work. You need to already know, empirically speaking, what data has shown, what works and what does not work, and you apply those skills. That's why it's important to have a worldview, uh, be a critical thinker. And I agree with you about the virtuous
And they,
part. I've written a
and
book
they
about
don't
values and beliefs. So I
They don't
understand
teach,
exactly what you mean.
they don't teach critical thinking in schools. They want complicit workers by design. They'll intentionally, they want complicit workers, not critical thinkers.
Well,
We have to get critical thinkers back right now, so
if,
that we need to do some soul searching.
and every school that I've served in, every school that I've ever walked through, I can definitely say they taught critical thinking skills. They taught about the virtue in various ways. Uh, Whether it was a Christian institution where you talk about a Proverbs 31 virtuous woman and you have the application of virtue throughout the Bible. I've seen it if you're talking about a secular institution of higher learning, even a liberal arts institution, there is always a weaving in of what's important to succeed. I've taught ethics. So when I
And why
teach
isn't it
ethics,
working?
I'm talking about ethics being wide in law. Well, I think you have people right now in a different world, right? You have people that, let's just face it, after COVID, it's hard to get people to show up to work. When you go to a fast food restaurant and you see the same person taking your order, the same person taking your money at the first window, and the same person handing you a bag at third window, and they're looking at the clock. I'm not kidding with what I'm telling you. It better not be 9:49 and they close at 10. They start cutting the lights off at 9:45. They give you an attitude if you're ordering anything and they have to fire the grill back up. Talk about virtues, talk about just customer service. That's a problem.
Facts.
I, so we have to teach people that when I said ethics is wider than the law might require A, B, C, but ethics might require E, F, J, K, whatever, Z. We
To
have
me,
to start thinking that way.
it's a very simple solution. Where our educational system is top down. We got to change it. It's got to be bottom up. And same with our medical institutions, top down. It's got to be bottom up. And so that we've got to do some real, like I said, soul searching, get some critical thinkers, and redo some things real fast if Alabama wants to survive.
I agree.
I believe I believe we need to look at the mental apparatus, the mental health aspect, like Dr. Boyd was saying. Post COVID, let's see, let's go back. Pre-COVID, I don't know if you gentlemen remember this, there was a huge debate about let's make minimum wage $15 an hour. And in my mind, as a small business owner, I disagreed with it from the standpoint of a lot of my friends were like, well, you're trying to keep people living below $15 an hour, and $15 an hour is not enough. My angle was, hey, if you tell a small business owner this is the new minimum wage, they're going to comply. Now, the reaction to that action is, if I got 15 people on payroll and I got to pay all of them $15 an hour, now I have to reduce my payroll down to 5 people. I can pay these 5 people $15 an hour. However, I got to cut 10 because I can't afford to keep a business open and employ 15 people. So I say that to say, when you go post-COVID, you don't have people that want to come into work. And COVID played a huge role in that because it forced us to stay at home, stay in the house, and we had to figure out, okay, how do I survive in this new world where I can't go outside? And if I do go outside, I'm cut to a certain time limit. I got to keep 6 feet separation. So now post COVID, you can't find people that want to work. So when you look at that piece where our young people don't want to work, I believe you got to look at, okay, how do we factor in the mental health piece of it? Because that's the key formula, that's the key ingredient missing in the formula that gives you the answer that you're looking for. Nobody's talking about the mental health of our young people, where it is hard to get people to come in the office to go to work now. When
I
you
think
don't have that.
I think COVID, I think COVID was a test of our educational system, where we're taught to remember what we're told and do what we're told. I think that COVID was a test to see if we would remember what we're told and do what we're told. And unfortunately, too many people did it. And we should have never done that. That government does not have the right to do what it did during COVID. It used medical tyranny to shut down, they shut down our businesses, our schools, locked old people in hospitals. You couldn't, and if you don't have an advocate in the hospital with you, they'll kill you. And hospitals will kill you. And they killed a lot of people with the remdesivir and the vents. That's a death sentence. When they stick you on that, you're dead. And you had no one there to prevent you from going on it. We failed. That was a test of our educational system. And unfortunately, our educational system failed and the people failed. Now we got to rethink. There was a wake-up call. And I think it's a great wake-up call, because Alabamians, I mean, if we take our schools back, our medical care back, get rid of Scott Harris, the chief medical doctor. If I'm elected, I'll make his life miserable for what he did during COVID. And I think that was a great wake-up call, and it exposed our top-down society. Remember what you're told and do what you're told. No, this is America. This is the land of free.
So
Dr. Boyd,
we talked.
Do you agree where I hear what you're saying, but do you agree with what I'm saying is we have to factor in the mental health of our current state as it relates to our young people post-COVID? Because businesses have to reformulate how they're going to operate when you can't get people to come in. And you have businesses now where they won't even do a background check or drug test, because it's like, you know what? How do I get this person just to come to work?
Right.
They're that desperate now to say, you know what? Will you come to work? We don't care about your background. Forget the drug test. We just want you to come to work. I agree with what you're saying, Ken. You're absolutely right. With the virtuous, and you got to look at the education system. But my thing is, you got to factor in the mental health of somebody, and you got to see how do they function now in a society where it's almost like they have to be reintroduced back into, having social skills. You still have people that will go to work and they work a customer service job like retail, and they will not speak to you. You go to a grocery store and you really can't get employees at grocery stores to speak to you. And it's like, if you ask them for help, it's almost as if you're bothersome to them. That has to be factored in. At some point, we got to factor in, okay, how do we attack the mental health apparatus and factor it in and get back to somewhat normalcy? Am I making sense, Dr. Boyd?
I hear what you're saying. Let me take it in a slightly different direction, because I do have 2 college students and I also have a middle schooler around. I think values are totally different for even my kids than for me. We all love God. We love each other. We embrace all the people of the world. We all have worldviews, that embrace different things, diversity, equity, inclusion, whatever it may be, right? Right. We try different things. We do different things as it relates to trying to explore, to learn more. We're always reading. But here's the problem. Here, and I really shouldn't say problem, but here's the issue that I think you're talking about. We're living in a world now where people are more transactional and less transformational to a degree. We're living in a world where I believe, whether you want to introduce COVID or not, you have AI to where you can put in a prompt and within seconds you have an answer. So there's no emotion, there's no feeling there. At the business level, I believe it's cheaper to retain a customer than to go out and get a new one. I also shift that into the management world or operations world by saying it is cheaper to pay a little bit more for an employee rather than having high turnover and you have to continuously hire new people. People are motivated for different intrinsic and extrinsic reasons. If I talk to the average person our age today, it would be the economy, healthcare, and the community. They're fired up about that. If I went to some young people below age 20, maybe 18 to 20, or even 18 to 29, I'm going to spread that range out a little bit. Their concern may be the environment. And then maybe the Epstein files, number two. That's just where they are. Totally different ideas of how they look at the world. So I think one of the main reasons why people oppose to a higher wage look at a small business, say, if you realize if you pay that $15 an hour, it's going to cost that hamburger to go from $5 to $20. Well, we've proven that's not the truth, right? It may add, and Ken and I can go ahead on this, but it may add a quarter, it may add 50 cents, but it's not going to be that type of a drastic $5 to $25 hamburger. In the process, though, when a person feels like affordability is there, security is there. We could talk about the hierarchy of needs, right? But when a person feels like they can go to a job and they're not going to lose it, or let's talk about effective and efficiency, they can go to a job, know what they need to do, get it done in 1 hour and get their $15 rather than staying on the clock for 3 and getting only 7. They're different. They have different mindsets. So I just believe from a mental health standpoint and even just different values, we have to understand what our workforce really wants. Young people I talk to now, they don't want a whole lot, but what they want it. And so I think when those of us our age, and I'm not trying to be discriminatory when I say this, I think we have to recognize that there's a different generation coming up behind us and they're motivated in different ways.
I agree with you. There's no question. But on the burger, when I was 16 years old, I'd skip school, drive down to McDonald's. I'd get 2 hamburgers, a small fry, and a small drink. Cost me $1.
Yeah.
$1.
Yes, sir.
For the folks in my office, I went to McDonald's the other day. I won't eat. I don't eat fast foods. Can't eat it. My stomach won't allow me to eat fast food anymore. My metabolism has changed, and but I get it for them. I mean, it's $15 a person. It's
Oh,
like,
yes.
how much?
Yes.
I mean,
That's
it's
CPI. It's just totally different. It's climbed up there.
insanity. And and government did that, or our Federal Reserve did that. I mean, our Federal Reserve prints debt. Only when the United States needs to borrow money, the Federal Reserve prints debt, or prints money for themselves, and then loans it to the United States. And it's why the United States is always in debt. It's why we have endless wars. It's why we have open immigration from south of the border. It all creates debt. $500 billion a year it costs us net negative to bring immigration in from south of the border. Endless wars and unbelievable open entitlement programs, generational entitlement programs, they all create debt. That creates inflation. That kills the person that works hard, saves their money, and saves for retirement. We got, but there's not a lot we can do about the federal thing and the globalist thing, because even most of our presidents since Bush have all been globalists. So Alabama needs to take care of Alabama. That's what my motivation was running for governor. So we can take care of, Alabama can take care of Alabamians. And I'm not a leader. All I got to do is motivate the folks to educate themselves, motivate the doctors, motivate the teachers, get rid of the bureaucrats, rethink stuff, and y'all do it. And the people have to do it. I can't do it. The only way I can be free, I've lost so many of my freedoms, and that's why I'm running also. I want my freedoms back. But the only way I can be free is if people are free. And the only way people can free, like Ben Franklin says, only the virtuous can be free. Get our kids virtuous, we get our freedoms back. I get to die in a free country.
Gentlemen, I want to be respectful of you guys' time. This is a school night, so I don't want to. This we can keep this going for another hour. I'm really having fun.
Now it's
so
Tom. I got to get up in the morning. I'm
so
old.
what I would like to do is close it out with two more questions, and you gentlemen know how I typically close out a session. First question is, if somebody wants to ask additional questions, make a donation to your campaign, both of you guys' campaign, how can they do so?
Take it, Ken.
I'm Ken, Ken, the number 4, gov.com, kenforgov.com, or go on Facebook, Ken Mcfeeters. I'm all over that. And like I said, both him, Will, and I, we don't have the media, reporting on every single thing we do. They intentionally, and especially in the Republican press, several of them, I was the only Republican candidate that declared, besides my opponent, for 8 months. They never mentioned my name, not once. So, I mean, this is, Will knows.
I do. Yes, I do. I started this journey over a year ago, and I'm honored just to be hanging out with you and Ken tonight, Julian. Ken, I'm sure you will do well serving people in Alabama in any capacity. We're both contending for the same office, but I think it's good to have this discussion the way we did tonight. Somebody wants to donate to my campaign. It's drwillboyd.com, drwillboyd.com. There's a one-stop shop there. You can find ways to join our campaign, ways to donate, ways to see my platform, ideas, what I want to do and where I want to go. You can always go to Dr. WillBoyd for Alabama on Facebook. I'm WillBoyd for AL on X, on I should say Instagram, and even TikTok. I think the handles are all the same. So I welcome anyone to this great fight. And again, I'm excited to have the opportunity. Ken just mentioned I started the race a long time ago, and my name was rarely ever mentioned. And we've had a number of forums and debates, and I've yet to see certain people show up to those forums. So I'm willing to talk to people. I'm doing about 1,500 miles a week. I know Ken has taken some very bold steps in Montgomery, and we're just trying our best to let the people of Alabama know that we're ready to serve.
Last question. Why should the people of Alabama vote for you as the next governor?
Go ahead,
Go
Ken.
first, Will.
Okay. I believe I've struggled in the trenches. I believe I'm in tune with the needs of the people. I've traveled this state quite a bit since 2016. People have afforded me the opportunity to be the nominee for United States Representative, Lieutenant Governor, and even United States Senator. I'm now asking for your support as I run for governor, not because I want to be out front, not because I want a title. I'm a servant leader. I just want to make sure I help Alabamians have a fair shot. I want to make sure that we all have the opportunity to succeed. I believe if we work hard, we can play hard. And so that's why I'm in this race. That's why I'm in this fight. And I truly believe a vote for me will change a lot. I hope all of those registered voters out there will take the time to look at all of the candidates that are on the ballot, all who have qualified. And again, when you do your research, when you do your homework, I'm sure you'll see who the best candidates are on both sides.
And I'm Ken Mcfeeters, and I'm running because I'm tired of losing my freedoms. Article 1, Section 35, that the sole and only legitimate end of government is to protect the citizen, that's us, life, liberty, and property. And when it assumes other functions, it is usurpation and oppression. And usurpation is the illegal taking of a right that you weren't given. We did not give the government the rights it is taking right now. We have to take our government back. It's the people. We empower government, and more importantly, we limit government. The only way we can be free, and we're in America, we can be free. You have to do it. The people have to do it. The only way I can be free is if y'all are free. Y'all need to get motivated, get off your butts and vote. You cannot, and don't vote for the moneyed candidates. Like I said, when America was becoming great, y'all instinctively knew that. I do, because I don't vote for the money candidates. I voted for Trump. Anyhow, and I'm disillusioned with everyone in Washington. And when I'm governor, like I said, I don't believe everything that Trump does is great. And I know everyone that's not going to, that votes for me is not going to think everything I do is great. So, and I want that. That's critical thinking. That's what we need in politics. And we don't have enough of that. So that's why I'm running. I want freedom. And thank you, Julian. And thank you, Will. This has been really, really, it's been a great conversation. It really has.
Thank you. Thank you both as well.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. First and foremost, I want to apologize to our my listeners, my viewers. We had a glitch on Zoom, so we didn't give up, but we figured out what the issue was. We fixed the issue. Want to also thank you two gentlemen for trusting me to give you guys a fair and a reasonable platform where we can show the people of Alabama what civil discourse looks like, where both sides can come together, talk about the issues, come up with different resources. You guys have different visions, great visions, none the least. But I believe it's something that we should start seeing more of. I have no ill will towards the Democratic Party and the clubs and civic groups that host events for the Democratic candidates, as well as the Republican Party that host events for the for the Republican candidates. My vision is, how do we create something to where candidates can come together, as well as the people, for one event under one roof. This Saturday we're going to have that event. It's a meet and greet. We have like 20 plus candidates for running for different positions, whether it's governor, lieutenant governor, U.S. Senate, Congress, revenue commissioner, public service commissioner, you name it. And it's not a debate; it's just a meet and greet. So when you say debate in candidate form, Ken and Will, you guys know sometimes the candidates, they will shy away from that. So I didn't want candidates to shy away. I wanted to promote something in Alabama that I've never seen, and that is to show candidates on both sides, like, hey, if we can sit together and watch the Iron Bowl, why can't we come together for the betterment of Alabama? And hopefully tonight, we achieve that. We achieve that goal of showing people of what we can achieve when we just come together and leave out the emotions and just come with some logic and come with different ideas, different solutions, and things of that nature. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I wish you both the best of luck on your campaign. Dr. Boyd, what do you have next coming up where people can see you in person? Because I know you're traveling every day just about.
I'll be in Montgomery very early in the morning, so like Ken, I need some sleep so I can make that trip. I'll be talking to a number of people there. Later in the day, I'll be meeting with some others. I believe I'm in St. Clair. Where is that? Where I am tomorrow? I have to look very quickly. I think that's where I am. Yes, yes, sir. St. Clair County. So I will be in that area from 4:30 to 6:30, 405 19th Street South, Pell City, Alabama. So I look forward to talking to you. And if you want to find any other events, drwillboyd.com/events, and I'll tell you where I'll be every day of the week.
And Mr. McFeeters, do you have any upcoming events on your calendar for this week?
I'm in Montgomery tomorrow morning for a television interview. And then Thursday morning, I'm leaving for a motorcycle trip, riding from our lake with two other buddies, going down to Panama City. And hopefully we'll see Tupperville over at where he lives at the beach. But we're going to go to a motorcycle rally for 3 days in Panama City Beach. It's first time I've gone. Love motorcycles. Been a motorcyclist my whole life. I wear all the gear. Wear your helmets, kid, gloves, back pads, boots, and we'll hopefully have some fun.
Ken, one of the most enjoyable trips I took years ago, I was visiting a major university campus, but we had an opportunity to go and tour the Harley Davidson headquarters. and I
Oh,
enjoyed just walking through that facility. And they even had a secured area where they had even back to the World Wars, obviously, motorcycles. So every time I pass a Harley Davidson, I'm amazed when I look that way. I have some even blue collar workers when I've traveled. They actually had some Harleys delivered to the hotel that they had custom made, and I'm talking about Julian Harleys that were then in the 90s, like
oh
$36,000.
yeah. It's insane how much
Wow.
Harleys cost.
I can't believe it. So are you riding one of those vehicles, Ken?
I'm riding a Kawasaki Versus 1000, and I've got 5 motorcycles, and I've got a Honda Fury, which is a chopper. I've got a 125 Adventure, 150 Adventure, a replica of a Honda 50 that I got when I was 8. It's called a monkey bike, and I've got a 49cc Honda Ruckus at the beach.
Well, once we become the nominees, we just need to tour Alabama on the motorcycles.
100%, right? 100%. Do the motorcycle tour, baby.
There we go. There we go. Who needs the back of a train or a caboose to do speeches? We'll just jump on some bikes.
One of the guys going is riding a really tricked out Harley, but it's insane what they cost. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I've got the 5 bikes. I mean, and that's probably about a third of what he's
I
got
can believe
invested
it.
in his Harley.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, they're beautiful, but
They are. They
they're high
are.
dollar.
They are. They are.
Gentlemen, I thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Political Talk with JB. I am your host, Julian Boykin, and you have heard from Dr. Will Boyd, who is running for governor representing the Democratic primary, and you have heard from Mr. Ken Mcfeeters, representing the Republican Party in the Republican primary. Gentlemen, best of luck to you on both of your campaigns, and I look forward to the next one. Have a great night.
Good night. Good night.
Right?